What did the weird kid in your school do that you'll never forget? This girl decided she wanted to be pregnant. She proceeded to ask probably half the people in our high school if they would impregnate her, and then when that didn't work she brought a Ziploc bag and asked for guys to jizz in it. Everyone called her Sperm Bank after that, and I honestly can't remember her real name. He had a book where he would write in people that wronged him. I got put in for smelling like soap. Naruto ran everywhere, told everyone her dad was Harry Potter, at age 12, and most memorably, came to school bawling her eyes out because she said she had laid an egg and her parents had eaten it for breakfast. Hissed at people in the halls, and then bit someone. Bell rings, playground doors open, weird kid walks directly to the center and screams for a full minute. I thought it was weird then, but now I can relate. Ate a sheep eye we were supposed to dissect in science class. Man oh man. Ate styrofoam, and then, visibly, lied about / denied it when someone pointed it out. Bits of styrofoam came out of his mouth. Went to a large school. / 3,000 students. If anyone said anything to the weird kid that he didn't like, he would stare at you and recite your name and address. A little creepy. A girl once took out her glass eye and threw it at our French teacher. Robbed a gas station dressed as a ninja, armed with a katana. Stole cash from the register, all the cigarettes he could carry, and a bunch of lottery tickets. He then fled across state lines with a 17-year-old girl. He was 19. Not a great result for him. At an all-school assembly during my freshman year, a motivational speaker posed an easy rhetorical question to the crowd, and the weird kid in my grade unnecessarily shouted out the answer, to every bored person's sudden delight. For some reason, trying to maintain his authority, the speaker asked our weird kid, "What's your name, son?" Without pause, weird kid stood up from his chair and loudly proclaimed, "My name is Booger." This announcement was met with raucous applause and laughter from the entire student body. It was gloriously random and weird. From then on, the weird kid was known only as Booger in our small town. It fit him better than Sean, and he fucking owned that name until graduation. There was this huge guy, tall and wide, in our classes. To support his impressive body, he ate a lot. He'd bring an entire roll of cookies, like 20 plus, and stack them on one side of his desk. Then he would take one bite out of cookie number 1 and put it to the other side of his desk. Then he would take one bite out of the next cookie and place that one on top on cookie number 1. He'd go through the whole stack until all cookies were partially eaten and in a neat stack on the other side of his desk. Then would do it again, take one bite of the top cookie and place that in the original side of the desk, bite the next cookie, etc. After maybe 15 minutes of biting and stacking, the whole lot was gone. Now we weren't even supposed to eat in class, but he always got away with it somehow. Could vomit on demand. During my 6th grade graduation, our class sang a song. Weird kid is standing next to me on stage and suddenly projectile vomits and some of it landed on my shoes. Impressively, he still kept singing while I stood there wide-mouthed in horror and disbelief. I'll never forget all the gasps from the crowd. Ran around the hallways making pterodactyl noises with his arms raised up behind him like he was swimming butterfly. I'm from a small town. There was this weird kid who was a year older, but he was so weird that even the younger kids would pick on him. I didn't really know him, but I put him in the weird but harmless category. He graduates and then decides to rob the local Taco Time with a shotgun. Well, it is a small town. The kids working at the Taco Time all know him, and pretty much everybody in the Taco Time also knows him. He got 2 years. A few days before a pep assembly, anonymously posted signs all over school that said, "The cock is coming." Teachers and school administrators were obviously concerned but clueless. Smuggled a live rooster into the assembly and partway through the opening speech at the assembly, whipped it out over his head as it went apeshit. Entire gym full of kids stood up and started chanting, "Cock, cock, cock." Was not seen at school for a few days after that. Chew the stuck gums under the tables. Pulled down his pants in the middle of a public bathroom and span in a circle while spraying piss everywhere and shouting, "Around the WORRLLD." Was in the band during some downtime. Some guy kicks off his shoes and socks and bites the ends of his toenails off. Most of the class casually migrated towards the other side of the room. The weird kid in our school was part of our friend group, so 15 plus years later we still give him shit about it. During assembly one afternoon, a few weeks from ball or prom, he went up on stage while our entire year was filing into the auditorium and taking our seats. He was part of the A/V club, surprise, so his responsibility was making sure the microphones worked so nobody questioned why he was up there tinkering with the mic. Anyway, 90% of our year has come in at this point when he starts singing Jumper by Third Eye Blind over a karaoke version of the song he found on LimeWire, and he's changed the "My Friend" part of the chorus to the name of the girl he wants to ask out to prom. He gets about halfway through the song before one of the teachers realizes it isn't a joke and gets up on stage to drag him out. Everyone is just sitting there going WTF. Half the kids don't know the song and the other half is wondering why he chose it to ask someone out. Turns out the girl he was asking wasn't even in the auditorium yet, so didn't hear his little number. He got detention for a week for being disruptive, but since then we just call him Jumper as a joke, but then it stuck, and I don't think anyone in our friend group has used his name since then. Even during his wedding you could tell who he went to school with since they'd ask where Jumper or Big J was. Cut his own hair while in class, mentioned that he would conquer the world with a revolver. Ended up setting fire to his house, and was sent to a mental asylum. Pretty mild stuff. Humped my desk for a solid minute while maintaining eye contact with me, and then said, "Thanks," and just walked away. I'm a guy. This was 15 years ago, on my first day at this new school, and I was just eating lunch at my desk, and this dude just walked up and went to town. No context, no introduction, nothing. Didn't even buy me dinner first. Just wham, bam, thank you Dusk. The albino kid in school. He would take off running down the hallway with one hand straight out in front of him and yell, "White lightning." He was weird, but everyone liked him. Weird kid, Dan, was obsessed with cute girl, Casey, for several years. She rejected him for several years. On the bus to a field trip I sat next to him, and he was drawing. I glanced over and he was drawing Casey falling off a cliff onto a patch of spikes below. Years later in middle school, he also got super mad and threw a desk across the room in English. Not a small desk either. One of those that's a desk/chair attached hybrid. Just fucking yeeted it across the room. Was fucking terrified. There's a litany of things he did, but those stand out to me. One time some kids smeared shit on the walls in the restroom, but no one ever found out who did it. P.S. For those of you who assume it was me, it would not be possible since I stopped using school restrooms to take a shit since 4th grade, and this happened 2 years ago when I was in 7th grade. I don't even know how the inside of that restroom looks like. We were getting DNA samples in biology. Most of the class used spit, but he tried to squeeze milk out of his nipples. Yes, This was when we were 14 to 15. He stabbed me with a number 2 pencil in my collarbone area. I went to the hospital, but they said I was fine. My stepdad said I would do anything to get out of school. Fuck both of those guys. My brother is a high school teacher, and he once texted me that he caught a kid cutting his pubic hair in class. Another kid, not even from his class, randomly ran into the classroom, took some binders out of a bookcase and started jumping up and down on them. Then he ran out of the classroom again. I don't know, I am pretty sure I was the weird kid. She barked at people and tried to scratch behind her ears with her foot. AMD sniffed people's butts at recess. She was 14. Apparently, he put a teaspoon up his arse in assembly. This is going to sound ridiculous, but during my senior year of high school someone took a huge, and I mean inhumanly huge, shit in one of the girls' bathroom toilets that was far too big to be flushed away. Some kid mentioned seeing it, and in no time somehow the entire school was made aware and gathered around the bathroom trying to get a look at this monstrosity. Picture 50+ high school kids skipping classes just to try to squeeze into a small women's room to stare in awe at an infamous shit. The crowd got so big and unruly that the administration finally caught on and banned people from that particular hallway for the rest of the day under threat of suspension. I like to believe that all of us were that weird kid on that day. Sodomized a duck. Allegedly. Didn't see him after that if I'm remembering it correctly. He gave me a handful of blue pop rocks. He was actually really sweet. In 4th grade a girl ate a whole mechanical pencil next to me. She also regularly ate whole sheets of paper and erasers. The pencil really sticks out in my mind though. He was a genius, all top scores. One day he called a friend of mine and said, "Hey, what are you doing this afternoon? Do you want to come here so we design a time travel machine?" Who knows when he is now. I was in economics class and this quiet Asian kid was on his laptop. The head of the school's IT storms into the classroom and starts yelling at him along of the lines of, "You fucked the whole network," drags him out of the class, and we never saw the kid again. Pissed his pants on the last day. Kidnapped a kindergarten from the bus stop and brought her to school claiming it was her daughter. Shook a baby and ended up in prison. Sat on my lap to flirt with my best friend. My friend immediately became uncomfortable. She knew where I was eating lunch that day and left to go find me. He followed her. When she found me, also female, I knew something was up because of the look on her face and the fact a guy I've never met was following super closely and talking to her while she gave really clipped answers. My friend sat next to me and the guy sat somewhere else in the room. But then the guy tried to sit between us and ended up sitting on my lap while trying to flirt. I don't remember what I did. I think we both ended up moving seats. A lot of people asked if I was the weird kid. No. The guy in the story became notorious in his university for this creepy behavior. Girls feared him, and memes of him were literally taped to the walls of campus. I think people might even know who this is. I remember once in high school we were on a school camp which included some low-level spelunking. About 60 of us had to squeeze single file on our hands and knees through a narrow part of the cave which was about 100 meters long. There was a small section about halfway along which opened up a bit to allow two people to sit shoulder to shoulder. Anyway, weird kid got to this section and decided he really needed to poop. Not sure what he had been eating, but it was a runny one. He was at the front of the column, so we all had the pleasure of crawling through the mess he made, because we'd come too far to turn back. Combine that with poor lighting and poor ventilation, and we had a real mess on our hands. He regularly threw chairs around the classroom, and one time he even held a pair of scissors to a teacher's throat. That was in primary school. He was seriously troubled, but seems okay now. I'm not sure if he done this with anyone else, but he drew a picture of SpongeBob and Charizard brutally killing me and my friend, and then willingly showed it to us. I couldn't help but laugh, but it was actually very well drawn. I liked that kid. Had a container of red Kool-Aid powder in his desk, and he would open it and eat it by the handful when he would get bored, usually an hour after lunch. College. Halloween party. Weird quiet kid shows up in regular clothes, but wearing a giant strap-on with a doll baby attached to it in a certain way. He went as a baby rapist. He was generally very weird and erratic. One day, he extracted a huge slimy booger out of his nose, turned around to me and a friend, and told us full of glee, "Guys, look." Then he stuffed it back into his nose. One day, I asked him why he was so weird, and he told me with the straightest face, "The jester's cap affords one many liberties." So I don't know if he was just weird or a secret genius, maybe a bit of both. Not weird kid, but kids. Apparently, these three really odd guys went camping together. This is in the flip phone days. Two of them decided to jerk off onto one guy's phone and closed the flip phone. Refused to say what happened after that. When I brought it up with him, he said I was #1 on his hit list. Said he was going to get a bazooka when we joined the military and come blow me up. They all fucked in the woods apparently, but never fully confirmed. One time someone broke in at night and shitted on the table of one class. It stank there for months literally, and the room wasn't used anymore. He wrote in my yearbook, "When I was 6 years old, I went into a cornfield. I didn't realize it was a maze. I was stuck for several days without food or water. When they found me, the doctors said I'd never be the same. Good luck in college." Emptied a year's worth of accumulated semen in his locker on the last day. Girl in my class who was extremely unfriendly and quiet. Many of the popular boys made fun of her. After high school, we found out one of her brothers abused her during that time and finally went to prison. Lesson: show kindness and grace when you can. There's usually a hidden reason behind these weird kids. Kicked a teacher in the crotch. Luckily, the teacher told the class afterward that he, the teacher, had had a vasectomy, so it was all good. We were 15, so very appropriate/s. The kid ended up getting thrown over a table. In 6th grade, the weird kid climbed up a tree and threatened to jump down. No teacher was nearby, and all children around, me included, were like, "Sure, go ahead." Or, "What do you even want to achieve by that?" He was just 3, maybe 4 meters above the ground, so no one really expected a more serious injury. After the students lost interest in him, and some hesitation on his side, he climbed back down. So no big deal, right? Wrong. Fast forward 5 years. Same guy climbs on top of a 12 stories building and this time actually jumps. I always felt a bit guilty, as our reaction, when he climbed up that tree might have encouraged him to do it properly this time. The guy actually survives by hitting the electricity cables from the tram, which softens his fall, but is in coma for nearly a year with multiple surgeries until he finally wakes up, but will be impaired for the rest of his life. Andrew Hooker made an album of electronica called Hook Anthems, and each one was a soundtrack for different mundane tasks of his life. He sold only one copy to a maths teacher, and it's also one of my life regrets that I didn't buy one too. Made his own religion, went through the paperwork and everything for recognition. Honestly, this is better than 98% of other organized religions. Anybody check this thread to see if you were the weird kid in the stories? Put a pig fetus head on the English teacher's car antenna. He repeatedly bugged me about my dead mom until I cried. At least he got beaten up afterwards. This one chick did a bunch of weird shit. We went to the same elementary, middle, and high school, but I'm a year above her, so we were never in the same class. Still, the things I've heard and seen her do include talking in a British accent to herself while in the bathroom, trying to have full-on conversations with Siri, then getting bored and just saying things like, "but" to her, sitting across from a group of gay kids and mumbling homophobic stuff to herself, trying to flip a desk and having a full breakdown upon realizing desks are heavy and she's a little girl, and run through the halls doing the can-can with herself. Vibing. Guy in junior high had an unsightly amount of earwax and was obsessed with James Bond, who he claimed to be his uncle. He would loudly proclaim that James Bond will kick your ass to anyone who questioned his affiliation with James Bond, made fun of James Bond in any fashion, or denounced James Bond's skills. He would literally get into fistfights to protect the honor of James Bond. There was also a girl in my elementary school who never wore shoes and was known for her impressive farting skills. I'll never forget the day when our class was sitting on the library floor during a lecture by the librarian how to handle/read/fold a newspaper. The 90s were weird. It could not have been more boring when all of the sudden out of nowhere the girl unleashed a massive fart that kept going and kept getting louder and louder to the point that the entire class was in full-blown hysterics while the fart continued to rage on. The hero we needed that day. Legend. He put a Christmas beetle up his nose while we were at the local pool for swim lessons. We then had to all leave early on the bus, so the principal could drive him to the hospital to get the beetle out. A week later, he did a small speech at the Friday school assembly about his beetle nose experiences and showed off his beetle in a jar. This was around grade 5 or 6 from memory. So 11 or 12 years old. Okay, quick. Stabbed another kid in the back at the arcade. Apparently, the other kid had sold him some acid, and a week later he still hadn't come down, so he sought revenge. Later, one of my dickhead friends invented what he called the Lance Dance. It was sort of a line dance where one group would line up in a row and pretend like they were playing pinball, and another would come up behind them and pretend to stab them in the back. It was performed at a school dance, right in front of the stage while the kid's father, a teacher at the school, was chaperoning. I didn't see it happen, unfortunately. The stabber's name was Lance, which is kind of funny if you think about it. I had an autistic friend, and he was afraid of a particular twin. He was minding his own business in the corridors, and each twin was walking towards each other at different ends of the corridor, with him in between. Frightened, he did what no one would expect, jump out the window. He was on the 3rd floor. Thankfully, he wasn't hurt that bad. When my teacher asked him why he did that, he said my life was under grave danger, and I only did what was imperative to be done. To this day, I don't know why he was afraid of them. That guy tried to smash a girl's face with a solid stone when he felt she was making fun of him. In middle school, I once jumped on someone's back and started hissing and clawing at them because they refused to move out of the way after I politely said "excuse me" to them and their friend. Since I was shorter than they were, it didn't have much effect. But hey, I got off with only a warning. ETA, I was obsessed with cats and cat girls at the time and did a lot more cat-like behavior than that, but that's a highlight right there. He said "I like your tits, Rose" to the teacher. Threw away all his notebooks at the start of exam semester because he wanted a fresh start. The weird kid in school bought a house next to me, and I have to deal with him on a daily basis. We are in our 40s now. Also, I thought he was weird when we were 8 years old. I watched him last night wearing a top hat, dancing around a fire with a mannequin. Peed herself in class. But instead of getting up and leaving the room to clean herself up, she wrapped her jumper around her hips and sat back down, stewing in her pee for another 40 minutes or so. Another one was a guy. He spent recess lying on his back, looking at the sky while curling and uncurling his index finger, muttering to himself. They committed suicide after finding out they wouldn't be graduating because he was failing a class by 3 points. He wasn't a bad student. He was passing his other classes with BS and CS. They didn't tell him because his counselor wasn't at school at the time, and the website didn't update to show he was failing. So he was able to buy a graduation gown and go to this award thing before rehearsal, then the next day finds out right there that he wasn't graduating. He took a large wooden pole, which he called his bat, and used it to whack the rest of us in the heads with it because he got bored or upset about almost anything. He would also grab almost every girl in a very inappropriate way while laughing, and when we asked him why, he just said, "Well, I had to try," and then do his signature stupid donkey laugh. And hashtag X200B. Boarding school was tough. He wasn't so much weird, just very, very anarchic. We were really good mates. We went to a special needs school due to our disabilities. The school was for kids with physical disabilities and mild behavior disorders. One lunchtime, we were all feeling bored. Well, Jamie was. All the classes sat together for lunch in a massive room specifically set out for mealtimes. We all had to wait for everyone else to finish before going out to play. Our table was mostly well-behaved and had really good table manners. Suddenly, Jamie announced he was so bored, and if he couldn't be excused to be able to run around, he would do something naughty. The dinner ladies obviously didn't listen to this, as you just can't let kids dictate what they want to do, so he was firmly told to sit still and be good. A few minutes later, without warning, he picked up a leftover pea from his plate and, to the complete joy of us other kids, shoved it up his right nostril and snorted the pea out off his nose. The pea shoot across the dinner room, hitting one of the teachers on dinner duty in the face. As you can imagine, this sent our entire table into uncontrollable fits of hysteria, being between 8 to 10 years old. As you might have guessed, our bad behavior got us all in severe grief, and Jamie's parents were phoned up and informed about his wayward behavior. As an afterthought, this was the same kid who favored eating blue paint over red because it apparently tasted better. Yeah. We got paired up for a group project, and he asked me if I could get him some tabs of acid. I said, "Yeah, how many do you want?" His response: "How much will it take to kill myself?" "No, I can't get you acid." claimed he was a sales representative for Spam, and then proceeded to pull a can of Spam from the side pocket of his cargo pants. He got obsessed with this girl. He came on a little too strong. He asked for some of her menstrual blood so he could drink it, because that's how much he loved her. She claimed that she had a dark side, and every time she wore a cheap ring, she claimed that her dad, who happens to be in a mafia, gave it to her since she was going to be the next leader or something. It meant that she is in her dark personality. Senior year of high school. Pooped and put it in the vending machine. The list of things this mad lad did would fill a whole yearbook, but here's some of the highlights. Dumped 5L of cooking oil into the school pool and set it on fire. He got suspended for that one. Managed to cause a power outage to half the town because he accidentally broke a power transformer on the school grounds. Still have no idea how he pulled that one off. Forced an evacuation of the school by setting of firecrackers in all the rubbish bins. Groundskeepers spent 3 weeks scraping melted plastic off the concrete. Forced a lockdown by calling the school with a fake bomb threat to get out of doing a test. He still had to do the test. And finally, in senior year, he was caught doing the horizontal hula with his missus by the principal during school hours. The place they were going at it like rabbits? The toilet in the staff-only section of the school grounds. Both got expelled for that, and she ended up pregnant from what I remember. He said he was Sonic the Hedgehog. When someone asked his name, he would say, "I am Sonic," and run away as fast as he could. He even wrote his name as Sonic on homework and tests. Most people never knew his real name. 1. Drew hentai-style cartoon images of all the girls in the class. We all had cat ears, a foxtail, and gigantic boobs. They were surprisingly awesome drawings, if you excuse the fact that they were hentai. 2. Stripped naked in class because he wanted to make the substitute teacher shut up. 3. Pretended to have diabetes because he wanted to eat lollies in class, even went so far as to drink liters of water so they'd urinate more frequently. Bought in blood glucose monitors and everything to check his sugars. Was caught at parent-teachers interviews when his homeroom teacher commended him on how well he managed his disease, only to have the parents inform them that he was not in fact diabetic. 4. Spoke on end about how his life aim was to own a dragon. Could not be convinced that they were not real. He was 17 at the time. 5. Conducted a survey amongst the girls to find out who was still a virgin. Propositioned each virgin as he would only fuck Vs. Explained that his reasoning was because he had a small penis after contracting an illness, which stunted its growth. He failed to find any takers. 6. Set fire to his leg hairs to prove he was a man. Cried. 7. Tried to guilt girls into giving him a BJ after bullying incidents, as in, would pretend he was so sad about being bullied and the only way he'd ever be happy is if someone blew him. I don't think anyone gave him a reason to smile ever. 8. Super glued his eyelids shut on a dare. Had to go to hospital. Was lucky he didn't blind himself. Okay, so in elementary school there was this guy called Eduardo. He was a funny Mexican guy and we called him Lalo. Lalo always had a bad breath, but a particular smell that I still can remember. It was sour and not as disgusting as you may think, but it was unpleasant. The kids in my group used to refer to him as sour mouth because of this. Maybe it was his diet or God knows what kind of buccal infection he had, but he was known for that. Last time I checked him on Facebook and now he is a bodybuilder. Good for him, I guess. I wonder if he managed to solve his breath problem. Piss himself in class and pretend he didn't. I felt bad for him, but come on dude, we all know it happened. In high school, he'd hand out business cards to everyone he'd see in the halls that read, "Congratulations, you just met _____________, the most interesting man in the multiverse." Eventually, we graduated high school and ended up going to college together, and to celebrate this, he bought a unicycle, taught himself to ride it, and proceeded to ride it every single day to class. Phew. I was legitimately nervously scanning this expecting to hear stories about myself from back in the day. What a relief. Naruto running while yelling, "I'm a plane," during each and every warm-up run in P. Since I can't think of anything, does that make me the weird kid? Like, if you can't find the sucker at a poker table? Oh man, where to start? Jerked off under the table during history, often. Threatened me with a knife while I was on a walk with a friend. Threatened to hire someone to fight me. I remember he regularly pissed off every kid in school, and I don't know how many times I have to save him from getting beat up. I almost want to say that he deserved every ass kicking that he almost got. Another kid seemed fully convinced that he was a Time Lord from Doctor Who. Same kid was the kid that hisses at other people. It's 4 a.m. and I can't remember a lot of them, but those were some big ones that stood out. Wes was awesome. We went to a really small rural school, L. He started my grade in sophomore year. His parents were hippies. He was super pale blonde, semi-curly mullet. Very quiet. Very intelligent. Last day of our senior year, really. One teacher has rock band set up in his room and Wes grabs the mic and just annihilates "Don't Fear the Reaper" by Blue Oyster Cult. Was awesome. Then quietly puts the mic down and goes to play D&D. He made car noises, acceleration, changing gears, screeching brakes, and steered an imaginary steering wheel through the halls. He was late to class one time and said, "Sorry, I ran out of gas." I wonder what he's doing now. He had some serious imagination. Pretended to be Goku, did a Kamehameha wave, and vomited through his hands. I had the locker next to the weird kid one year. One day we're both at our lockers, and he is dramatically searching through his locker like Indiana Jones, when he suddenly slams it shut, turns towards me and asks, "You know what?" I turn to look at him and say, "What?" He shows me his left hand, which has a bedazzled white glove on it. My mom says that I can fly off bridges while wearing this glove. We were like 17, and I think he just then realized his mom was trying to get him to jump off a bridge. I remember sitting on the floor in middle school gym class. Everyone sat in straight lines, one in front of the other. The weird kid in front of me turned around, made direct eye contact with me, lifted up one butt cheek, and just let one rip. It was like he was telling me with his eyes, "That was just for you." It's been at least 15 years, and I still think about that from time to time. Told everyone they were slowly turning into a bird. They said they had talons and would find feathers in their shower. Oh, and she regularly ate grass during PE. 2 middle school girls broke into the art workshop one night, cut up all the rugs with scalpels, and shredded every piece of artwork in there. It wasn't what he'd done in school, more what he'd done after. This kid always stank and always be fascinated during dissection classes in biology. By 14, he was an active hunter and could skin a deer in under 10 minutes with an almost perfect pelt. We thought he would grow up to be a serial killer, but instead he grew up to dedicate his life to being a foster dad who takes in the least privileged kids. I found out via a conversation with him a few years ago at a mutual friend's party that he was neglected as a kid, and his weird hobbies that made him the weird kid was how he ate because his parents didn't feed him regularly, so he now takes in kids in a similar situation to give them a good life. In high school, we had a kid that had Asperger's. He wasn't really weird, he was very positive and fun, but there's something I'll never forget. The kid was in love with trains for some reason, and one day came to me with a metal fork in his hand and wanted to show me a trick. He goes to an outlet, pointing the fork at it, and says to me, "Hey Polar, somebody told me if I stick the fork in the outlet, I'll become the best conductor ever." Never in my life have I stopped someone so fast, and I was stuck with a face of disbelief and trying not to laugh at the joke, because I like dark humor. Then the guy starts laughing, and he tells me it was a prank. Fucking hell, I got played by the Asperger's kid, but in my mind, I thought I'll see him die in front of me. I won't ever forget that. While not as crazy as the dug a hole to poop in girl, I saw this kid pull out a raw potato and just eat it in class.